Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and about 4 years ago or so, I made my most popular video ever here on the channel, which was how I was able to buy this little box called the HDHomerun Prime and get rid of most of the extra fees that Comcast was charging me to be their customer. And I was able to get down to kind of a bare bones subscription and use my own equipment to watch television throughout the house, and it worked exceptionally well back then, and it's working even better now because I've made some changes to the setup, and I've been documenting those changes over the last couple of months here on the channel, but each of the components I've probably spent a good half hour on, and I wanted to do a concise overview of all of the hardware and software I am currently using to save me money on my cable subscription. And what you're about to see is also going to work if you want to cut the cord completely and go over the air as well. So we're going to detail the hardware I'm using, all the different things I've got plugged into my televisions, and offer some suggestions as to where you can look for saving some additional money on this kind of setup. Now, I've covered everything you're about to see here in detail, which I'm going to put down in a playlist in the video description. So you can drill down in very intricate detail to every little component I'm running here. So if you want to take up this project, you'll know how to get started. Now, there are some disclaimers to make up front here because a lot of the products you're about to see in this video are products coming from sponsors of this channel. However, just about every one of these products I had bought and was using personally before the brands came to me to do some sponsorships here on the channel. So these are things that I really believe in, that have really saved me a lot of money over the years, and I'm really happy using these products. So you're going to hear me talk about these HDHomerun devices. The maker of these, Silicon Dust, is an occasional sponsor here on the channel. We're going to talk about WD. They have sponsored a few videos in the past. We're also going to be talking about Plex, who's a current sponsor here on the channel as well. But I want to let you know up front that nobody is paying for this video. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own, and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. And if we have any other disclaimers to make along the way, I will make them as I am talking about those products. So let's get started with the first component, which are the HDHomerun devices. Now, I've made a lot of changes to this setup over the last 4 years, but the one device that is still in use is my HDHomerun Prime that I bought 4 years ago to get this project kicked off. The reason why I bought it was because I used to be able to plug my cable jack right into the back of my televisions and be able to tune HD content without any problems. And one day Comcast decided to do a digital conversion, and they locked me out of doing that. And the only way to get my TVs to watch the cable subscriptions that I was paying for was to rent a box for every television that I wanted to watch on in the house. And that really upset me, given that they were not, of course, reducing the cost of my subscription, but asking me to pay more. That's why I went out and researched and picked up the HDHomerun Prime here. And this one is still in use here on my network 4 years later. Now, what this box does is it allows you to plug your cable TV service into this coax jack here, and then you plug in your computer network into this jack here. So you can basically run an Ethernet cable from here out to your router, for example, and when you do make that connection, all of your television signals will be available via your network with some of the software and hardware that I'll be showing you in a few minutes. Now, the one thing you need to get from your cable company is a cable card that plugs into this slot here. That's something that they will have to provide to you. Now, where I am in Connecticut, that card is free, and because it is my only thing that I'm getting from the cable company, they're giving me a $2.50 per month credit for using that card. That was the case 4 years ago. It is still the case now, but Comcast behaves differently depending on what market you're in, so your mileage might vary on this, but you get one card for each box and you're good to go. This box will support 3 simultaneous streams at the same time, so you could record 3 different things at once, or watch 2 things and record a third, for example. And the more boxes you get, the more you can tune, but you will need to get a cable card for each of those boxes. And I do believe after the first card, they will charge some additional rental fees. Now, some channels are not going to be accessible with this method that I'm going to show you. Those channels are what they call encrypted or DRM'd channels. And where I am, the only ones that are DRM'd are HBO, Showtime, and some of the other premium networks. That hasn't been a problem for me because I have the HBO Go app on all of my devices, so I'm able to watch HBO without any issue. I do have HBO as part of my subscription plan, but some cable providers lock you out of everything, so you'll probably want to check first and see if your cable company does DRM every channel on their lineup, which at the moment will prevent you from making use of this with your cable system. What they will be doing soon here from Silicon Dust is allowing you to watch those DRM channels with their app through supported hardware. They haven't yet gotten there yet at the time that I'm recording this video. So at the moment, if you are dealing with a DRM situation with your cable company, you're going to be out of luck. But where I am with Comcast, it's working just fine and has been for the last 4 years. Now, if you want to get rid of cable completely, what you can do is get one of their over-the-air tuners. This is the newest one they came up with. This one's called the Quattro, and it allows you to tune 4 different things from an over-the-air antenna at the same time. And what's cool about these little boxes is that you can set them up in an area of your house where you get the best reception, get them connected to your network. It does need to be a hardwired connection, and I'll give you some ideas for getting your network extended if you need to do that in a few minutes. And once you do that, you can tune all of these over-the-air stations anywhere in your house without having to worry about the position of the antenna. So find the best spot, hook this box up, and you're good to go. Now, everything you're going to see in this video as far as how I'm watching television will work the same with this box as it will with this one. From the software's perspective, it doesn't care if it's cable or over the air. It's going to work identically. So this will be a cord cutting or a cord shaving demonstration. And the setup process on the HDHomerun boxes is a lot simpler than it was 4 years ago. They've got a web interface that you log into. You click a button to have it go out and find the channels that are in your area. Once that channel scan is done, the box is ready to start tuning to whatever compatible software and hardware you have, and that is it. The boxes are very stable. I haven't had really any issues over the last 4 years with mine, and I've been very pleased with how they're performing. The most important thing is that my wife approves of this. And you might be wondering why even go through all of this in the first place, and the reason is to save money. I mentioned those fees a little bit earlier. My net savings right now is over $50 a month. Given how many televisions I would normally have to have a cable box with that I would have to rent from Comcast. Because I can get rid of all of those rental fees, it does have a pretty quick ROI depending on what you decide to use for hardware here. So let's take a look at what I am using now, and then I'll mention some alternatives that you might want to look at that I have covered in other videos as well. Now, my set-top box of choice at the moment is the Nvidia Shield TV. They are not a sponsor. I just really like this box. It is the most powerful set-top box on the planet, and it is one of the best set-top boxes for enthusiasts, which I am. And I do more than just watch live TV on these boxes. I play a lot of games on them. It supports a lot of emulators of retro video games that I like to play. And they also do very well as home theater boxes because I have a network-attached storage device in the closet where I've got probably a couple dozen Blu-ray movies that I'm able to stream to any television in the house. And what's nice about the Nvidia Shield boxes is that it supports the full HD video along with all of the fancy audio formats that I like to run through my home theater receiver. So for home theater buffs, it's great. For gamers, it's great. It also works very well here for live TV. And why I like these is because I was able to replace 3 different boxes I was using for each of the main tasks that I do with this single one. So it looks a lot nicer under the TV. These also support 4K and HDR if you've got a fancy new 4K television as well. So very versatile, great boxes. They start at $179 with a remote. They've got another one with a remote and a game controller for $200. And then they have a Pro Edition, which will be relevant for our discussion on DVR options in a few minutes. That goes for, I think, about $300. So not the cheapest box out there, and there are ways to do what you're about to see for less money, but this is what I am using. I've got a whole video on lower cost options that you'll find in the master playlist down below, and I'll mention a few of those in a few minutes. Now, what we use here in the house to watch live TV most of the time is the HDHomerun app. It is free and it's available on a number of platforms. The one we're going to load up here is the Android version because Android is what powers the Nvidia Shield device here. The Android version will also work on your phones and tablets running Android. There's also a version for iPhones and iPads and Windows and Mac as well. It's free across all of those platforms. So if you just want to watch live TV, no charge for the software and no monthly fee either unless you do the DVR, which we'll again be talking about in a minute or two. So you can see here we've loaded up the weather channel. Now the channel guide here is on the right-hand side of the screen. It is not a traditional channel guide with a grid because that is patented. So what they've done is created their own patented way of browsing TV. This is called the slice view. So I can hit the remote here to the right and kind of drill down into the weather channel. If I want to change channels, I can scroll down here to my local cable news channel here, and that will tell the tuner in the closet over there to switch to NECN, for example. So pretty easy to get around. There's also a search functionality on here if you wish to search for things, and very easy to watch live television. Now, the Android TV platform, which powers this device and a number of other devices out there, also has their own TV tuner that works with the HDHomerun, because remember, they don't really care what software you use, so they're very open about other software packages coming into play. And so on the Android platforms that support this, there is a live channels feature here, and what you'll get here, if we'll let it load up here for a second, is a more traditional grid-based channel guide if you want something a little more traditional. So if you got somebody in the house that just insists on this kind of channel guide, you'll have that for free on your Android TV devices. But the device has to support the official Android TV. A lot of these cheap boxes you might find on Amazon and other places do not have that interface. So there is a box out for about $69, which is called the Mi Box, that does support this interface. The Google Nexus player does as well. And again, you've got a nice choice of how you watch your live TV if you want to have a different kind of grid. Now, 4 years ago, I was using Windows Media Center that was doing all the live TV tuning. It was also working as a networked DVR that allowed me to watch content on any TV in the house. But the options for watching that content were limited to Xbox 360s and Windows Media Extenders. I didn't have the option to watch on a mobile phone all that easily. So what I've done recently is switched over to the HDHomerun DVR, and I've got it running here. So if I hit the back button here, it'll bring me into the DVR interface. And if I want to pull up a TV show that I recorded here, I got a lot of stuff that my wife watches here, I can just click on this show and it starts up almost immediately. It's amazing how fast this spins up over the network, and it really works quite nicely. The cool thing is that I also have this same interface on my mobile devices. So if I want to spring up some TV on a phone or a tablet in the house here, I can do the same thing. Things do pop up just as quickly here on the phone over Wi-Fi as they do with the other stuff as well. So really flexible viewing options here for not only watching on televisions, but also on your tablets and other devices. Really quick and easy. Now, the DVR service costs $35 a year. That funds all of the additional program guide options you'll get. I covered the DVR in detail in a bunch of videos that are in the playlist down below, so you can see how all of it works. And there's also a server component involved here that you have to think about too. Now, what I'm running with is a WD MyCloud PR2100. Again, remember, WD was a sponsor here on the channel a little while ago, and that is one of their more pro-level devices, and I'll talk about why I chose that NAS in a minute. But you could probably get by with a WD MyCloud mirror, and what that will let you do is install the recording engine that the HDHomerun requires, and then that will work in the background. It will record all of the shows that you want to watch later, and it will also work for time shifting things that you're watching live. So you can hit the pause button while you're watching something, for example, and then walk away and come back and resume that live TV that you were watching. Again, I covered how all of that works in my other video, so definitely check it out. But you will need either a WD MyCloud device, like I mentioned. It supports other NAS devices as well, or you could use an old computer that you're not using, like an old laptop or something like that. And some people are installing the recording engine on Nvidia Shield devices like this one, although the Pro Edition that has that built-in hard drive might be a better option, although you can attach external storage to this one and have it work in a similar fashion. So if you're only doing this on one TV or a couple TVs in the house, the Nvidia Shield might be able to handle all of that for you, which makes it, again, a very versatile little device. Again, I covered more of this in the detailed video I did on the DVR, but just plan accordingly. You will need something to act as the server on your network, and I do recommend connecting that server up to the rest of your network with Ethernet versus wireless. Now, the HDHomerun DVR is not the only thing that works with their hardware. So Plex, for example, has a great DVR that we covered in a bunch of videos that I've done here on the channel, which will be down in the master playlist. And what I use Plex for is for having my DVR recordings that I've made with my HDHomerun software available to me when I am not at home. So one of the issues that the HDHomerun software has is that it only works inside your house, but Plex will work outside of your home, and I can stream my live TV broadcast to my phone or tablet anywhere in the world, and my laptops as well. Or I can play the stuff that I recorded on my HDHomerun anywhere in the world, because Plex doesn't care where you are. It will figure out a way to get your content encoded and streamed to you remotely, which has been a really cool feature of Plex. Now, the live TV feature requires a Plex Pass subscription. That's $40 a year or $5 a month, or you can spend $150 and get a Plex Pass for life. But if you just want to have your recording sent to you that you made on your HDHomerun DVR, The free version of Plex will do that for free. So I would maybe try that first to see if the free version will do everything you want. And then if you need to, perhaps go over to the Plex DVR option later through the Plex Pass subscription. I've covered Plex in detail, so check out those videos to learn more. But Plex is an important part of my setup here, especially when I am looking to watch things when I am not at home. Now, if you want to avoid paying anything to have a DVR, there are some free options available. There are some open source options. I believe Kodi has some support for this. There's also the Lon.TV platform. Those are open source, but might be a little complicated for general consumers to set up. On the Android side, if you're running the official Android TV interface like you'll find on the Nvidia Shield here or the Mi Box or the Nexus player, if you go over to the Live Channels app, there is some DVR functionality for free built into those things, provided you have some storage attached to make those recordings. And we covered that in a prior video. It might work really well with the Nvidia Shield Pro, for example, that again has that hard drive built in. The only downside to it is that it's not a networked DVR, so you won't be able to watch things that you record on this device anywhere else in the house. But if you don't mind having a single place to watch your TV recordings, it is a very easy and seamless way to get a DVR functioning completely for free with this HDHomerun tuner setup. Now, one last thing I wanted to talk about, and that is the networking component of these tuners and the televisions involved with them. Because as I mentioned at the outset, these HDHomerun boxes need to be connected with an Ethernet cable to your router to make their broadcasts available to your devices throughout your house. Now, I'm finding recently that wireless technologies have improved to a point where I see some pretty decent performance out of AC wireless routers and mesh systems, but you need to make sure you've got good connections and good signals everywhere in the house, because you might see a drop-off in performance the farther away from the access point that you get, and if your network gets saturated, of course, that will certainly impact things. And I recommend whenever possible to try to get Ethernet run to all of your TVs so that you can get the best possible performance. So for example, right now we're running Ethernet to this Nvidia Shield box, and my other two boxes that I'm using are also connected up via Ethernet. Now, if you are reluctant to go and start wiring up everything and you have cable television wiring in the house, the best solution, I got to find it on the desk here, that I have found are these MOCA devices. And this is a MOCA 2.0 device. And what you do is you plug your cable TV wiring into it. You plug one in over by your router, you plug another one in somewhere else in the house that you want to extend your network to, and you'll be able to convert Ethernet to coax over your cable TV wiring and then back to Ethernet to connect into your router. Like everything else in this video, I've done a full review of these MOCA devices, and in full disclosure, after I reviewed these things independently, the MOCA Foundation approached me for some sponsorship here on the channel. We've been doing some ads to get out the word on this product, and this is something I really believe in because these devices work exceptionally well in my house. These 2.0 devices can push gigabit speeds, perfect for what we're doing here with these HDHomerun tuners, and these things really work really well. And I think if you are having wireless trouble throughout your house and want a good, reliable wired connection, these boxes really do quite well. There's also a version here that is a Wi-Fi access point. So again, you connect up one end to your router and then the other end here to this coax connection, and then you've got a wireless access point with AC here that you can use to try to get your phones and tablets in some far-flung rooms to work better. So lots of great options here with MOCA, and that's one way to avoid having to rewire your whole house. But if you really want the best possible solution without any additional hardware, running additional Ethernet cable from your router to the points in your home that you want a wired connection to will work best. So whenever possible, do some wired connections. And again, I really like MOCA as the best possible way to do your network extensions. I found Powerline was not reliable enough for me. It was often changing speeds, and it wasn't really able to keep up with some of the over-the-air broadcasts you might encounter. MOCA was able to do that, again, without having to rewire your house for Ethernet. So that is the current setup that I have here running at the house, and it seems to be working quite well after retiring the Windows Media Center component to it. Again, you don't need all these expensive Nvidia Shield boxes to do what we're doing here. In fact, I found a $30 box on GearBest.com that's running Android that did work quite well with the HDHomerun app. A review of that one is down below. I believe it's called a Tanix box. Just remember that that box is not an official Android TV box, so you won't get that free DVR we just talked about, but it is good enough for a secondary TV to get something functional working on there with the HDHomerun app and Plex for that matter. There's also the option of running a Raspberry Pi, which is a very inexpensive $35 computer that you can also use in this setup quite nicely. So there are some options that you can use to bring down the cost. And of course, I did a video on bringing down the cost as well, which you'll find in that big playlist down there. So overall, I think it's working quite well here at the house. It's certainly a lot faster than it was when I was running with Windows Media Center. I can watch on more devices now. I can watch outside of the home now that I have the Plex component working with this too. So I'm really quite pleased with where this project has gone. It's not all that complicated. It might seem like a lot when you first encounter this, but when you start breaking down the components, it really isn't hard to get started. You can start with maybe one television and then kind of branch out from there. I would say that you could probably get this thing running properly within 3 hours or less, and maybe a little less than that if you don't have to deal with Comcast and a cable card. So pretty easy setup now, a lot more software options, and there's some software that we didn't cover that I haven't looked at yet. So for example, on the Apple TV, there's an app called Channels that has their own DVR that works with the HDHomerun hardware, and of course some of those open source things that I mentioned. One thing I haven't looked at though are competing options for over-the-air broadcast, and the reason why I haven't is not because HDHomerun is a sponsor here, but it's because I just don't get much over the air, and I can't really do a proper review if I only have like one channel that I can pick up. So I might try to take a look at some other products, but I really at the moment where I'm located can't do a full review that would give those products any justice. And again, I went with the HDHomerun Prime because it does support my existing cable subscription, and unfortunately I have no other option for TV than to have a cable subscription, but I have been able to control the costs and exert some of my control as a consumer once again, which really makes me feel good, and I hope some of you have gained some consumer empowerment from my project as well. So that's going to do it for the full overview here. Leave your questions and comments down below, and I'll try to get to some of those. Also check out the playlist because I've got a lot of detail on all the different things you just saw, so if you want to get a good idea as to how it's working, check out those videos too. And I want to thank you all for your continued support of the channel and my crazy project here. I do these videos often because I'm always tweaking this thing, so do subscribe if you haven't already to get notified as to when I delve further into this cord shaving adventure. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters, including gold level supporters, the Black Eyed and Blues Music Hour podcast, Chris Allegretta, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.